How to know if you're in a cult.
Life Lessons with Fez.
As the world gets crazier and crazier, let's be real. People are going to want to cling on to something that gives them meaning, that helps them navigate life, helps make sense of the world. And where there are people who might be feeling a little bit lost, oftentimes there are opportunists who want to take advantage of that. Oftentimes such opportunists might start organizations that promise enlightenment, that promise honor and service and community, dignity. They might even offer something otherworldly. Now, everyone is another hallmark tenet of a cult or a problematic organization is their approach and who they approach. Oftentimes, problematic organizations will approach young people, idealists, or people who are vulnerable. They'll provide a solution in exchange for total loyalty, of course. But the point is, they try to offer something that people are craving. That could be meaning, it could be honor, it could be dignity, it could be service, it could be purpose. Now, there's nothing wrong with offering someone those things as long as it's done ethically, as long as the actions of the organizations are ethical and helpful, not hurtful, and that anyone who doesn't want to participate anymore can leave. If that organization does not answer those questions, well, it might just be a cult. It's allowed to believe what they want to believe, and we shouldn't force our beliefs on others. However, sometimes these organizations can do a great deal of harm. And if you are wondering if you might have joined such an organization, been approached by one, perhaps you had questions, perhaps you had a nagging feeling that something's not quite right here. Well, if you're feeling a little iffy, keep watching. Here's a helpful guide to identify and hopefully not get too deep into organizations that take advantage of people. Oftentimes, such organizations will have a hierarchy, level of achievement, different stages of being closer to the goal that they set, right? So if the goal is enlightenment, they might have hierarchical stages that one must pass through in order to get to the next stage. There might be demands that need to be met in order to get to the next stage, in order to be initiated or qualified to be part of that organization. Oftentimes, the higher in the organization you go, the more you know. And some people will say that knowledge is power. So these organizations will allow quite a lot of power to those at the top and set an aspiration that those who start at the bottom can work their way up. And in doing so, when they have achieved great things in that organization, then they can be promoted. There's the sense of promotion. Look, as humans, we do want to aspire. We do want to have goals that we can meet. But when that power is wielded improperly, when that power is used to exploit or manipulate or force or coerce, that's when you know that it's starting to feel a little culty. So that is one way to identify. Another way to identify a hierarchy is in that same knowledge vein, that as you go higher and higher and higher up in the organization, that perhaps you too will achieve greatness that the leaders do. Leaders who are often chosen or have special privileges, very little accountability, and very little consequences. In such organizations, there is a huge amount of secrecy. Seriously, a lot of gatekeeping of knowledge. That's how you know it's a, kind of pyramid scheme, if you will. But a lot of the time, service is done by those at the bottom, and those at the top of that organization have a more administrative role, have more organizational role. But you can't know the secrets of those at the top unless you are deemed worthy by them, by doing all sorts of tasks, perhaps being subject to indentured servitude, serving the greater cause. Could just be serving a delusion, or it could be that you truly believe in that organization's values and what they stand for. Which again, everyone has a right to believe in whatever they want. But we must draw the line at when it does harm. Another way to identify a cult is how much they ask for those who are about to be initiated or initiated into it. A lot of the time, such organizations will ask initiates to prove themselves, to do something that shows loyalty to the organization. Now, this can come at great cost to the individual, of course, but does the organization care? That's something you have to ask yourself. If an organization is asking more than you can provide, or if an organization is asking for more than you signed up for, then it might be a cult. It might be a problematic organization of people. If people are forced, coerced, manipulated, blackmailed into doing something, yeah, that's not consent. That is not consensually giving. Consensually giving involves choosing without hindrance, without fear of consequence, to partake in an action. There must be freedom. And while we're on the topic of freedom, another way to identify such an organization, a cult tends to demand absolute loyalty. Absolute. No nuance, no questions, complete blind loyalty. Now, anyone who restricts your choices, who discourages you from taking advantage of free will, yeah, they are not acting in your best interest. Free will is a gift, and it is a right. Everyone deserves to choose what they do and why they do it, and understand why they do it. Be careful of giving up your entire life's possessions all of your wealth, all of your resources, your body, your talents, your mind, to organizations that want to exploit them for their own uses, for their own gains. At the very least, there should be a fair exchange of a type of compensation. So if you're just giving, and nothing is flowing back to you, and that organization is not helping you prosper and live well within your community, then you gotta ask yourself, am I in a cult? Another way to identify a cult is your ability to leave. Yes, some organizations will threaten members or initiates should they divulge secrets of that organization. Some organizations will threaten harassment, or will actually harass, stalk, violate the privacy of those wanting to leave that organization. They might disincentivize leaving by threatening, shunning, demotion of your standing in your community. They might threaten lawsuits. They might... Well, you're getting the pattern. It's a threat and not a consensual ending of a relationship. So if you're not allowed to leave, then you might be asking yourself, am I trapped in a cult? And if you can't leave without some great sacrifice, then is that organization really acting in the best interests of its members? Because if you love something, you should be able to let it go and let it find its way back to you. Openness to leave and openness to come back are important in any organization. But in a cult, well, let's just say it can be highly discouraged. The way that society understands a cult might sound quite fantastical, mysterious. My question is, if everything that you're doing is above board, why does it have to be a secret? In any case, some people might agree to confidentiality, sure. But if harm was done, if laws were broken, then you have every right to speak your truth and see where the chips fall. Another hallmark of a cult is they distort your worldview. They create enemies, make the world seem ugly and uninhabitable, and that you can only find safety in the bubble of that organization. Oftentimes they'll use certain language to describe people who are not like you. They'll diminish and insult those who do not think the same way as you. Cults will often see people in the outside world as vile, uneducated, foolish, unknowing, unworthy, unclean, vulgar, profane. Yeah, if that organization puts you and your members, your fellow members, above others, that organization is not acting in the best interests of you or society or the community. You see, we're all human. We are all flawed and we're all wonderful in our own ways. You see, with cults and problematic organizations, their goal is to isolate you, to to isolate you from your friends, family, loved ones, as they see them as less than. They will offer you a kind of truth that no one else can understand. And to that, I hope you take caution with letting someone else determine your worldview. Proceed with caution when someone tries to convince you that the organization is special and everyone else is just foolish for not believing in the way that that organization says the world is. So, if they discourage compassion and empathy and connecting with others who are not like you, yeah, you might be in a cult. We are communal creatures. We are social creatures. And isolated communities, while they can thrive, it's better to contribute to society in a positive way, to empower people, to encourage them to be better, to contribute, to build, not to destroy and steal and kill. And sometimes cults might do just enough good as a public relations tactic to cover up the real happenings behind the doors. They might have a public perception that is positive while abusing their members and initiates. So be aware of the full contributions of that organization. Not just the positive sides, but how they impact people. A great way to understand the fruits of an organization is to follow the money. Follow where they are spending, follow where they are making, how much they are making, how much they are spending, how much good they are doing in the world. These can be algorithmic calculations. We have the data, we have these variables that can help us understand if an organization is helping or hurting. So just crunch the numbers. To wrap it up, be careful of falling for the schemes of others. Be careful about falling into traps that seem like mirages. Be careful of people who want to take advantage of you, who want to use you and throw you away. Be careful of people who drain you. And make sure that you prioritize what is good for you and good for the world. And you can achieve things like purpose, honor, valor, meaning, understanding, without having to sacrifice your whole life. You see, you don't have to be a slave to an ideology, an idea, a thought, a school of thought, a belief, programming that you might have had growing up. You can free yourself of that. And you can be the person, the best person that you know how to be, without the influence of others. You know who you are inside. And you know that you can find all of those positive things within yourself. Get to know yourself. Get to know the world around you. Find your purpose. Learn your talents. Enjoy your life. We are not alive just to be miserable. Okay, we are alive so that we can survive and thrive.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and would like to watch more of Fez's Common Sense Toolkit, visit fezaga.co/toolkit. Like and subscribe and follow @Fezaga and Company on social media platforms, as well as on Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee. See you next time.